Let's do a full review of Disney's Port Orleans French Quarter. Hi, if you're new to my channel, my name is Katie. I make lots of Disney and lifestyle vlogs, so if that's your kind of thing, make sure you subscribe. But for today's video, I thought we could do a full in-depth review of Port Orleans French Quarter. I just stayed there with my mom and my sister. If you missed the vlogs, I'll link them above, but we absolutely love this hotel. But I do feel like it's one of the more underrated Disney resorts, so I thought it would be a good one to do a full review on, because a lot of people have messaged me and been like, I've never even visited or seen French Quarter, because it's not really a resort that you would stumble upon doing something else. You kind of have to go out of your way to find it. So I thought it'd be a good resort to give a full review on, since a lot of you have not visited yet. I made lots of notes on my iPad just because there's a lot to cover, and I want to be super in depth with these resort reviews so it can help you make a decision about where you're going to stay on your next Disney trip. As always, have a coffee. I just made this, I haven't even mixed it yet. I do want to preface by saying I stayed there most recently around Christmas time, so a lot of my B-roll is gonna have the Christmas decorations, but let's dive into the basics. The basics of Disney hotels, Disney World hotels. You have three categories of hotels. You have your value resorts, your moderate resorts, and your deluxe resorts. So obviously the value is going to be the most cost efficient option. It's going to be the cheapest hotels. They're usually pretty large resorts, meaning you're having to wait for the bus, pretty big bus stop. So you're standing in a queue like outside in the sun waiting for your bus. So when you stay at a value resort, you tend to do a lot of walking because the resort is so big. Now they do have like preferred rooms and things like that that are a better location, but for the most part, they're big resorts, a lot of walking, and there's just a lot of people. The theming is usually really fun at the value resorts, so it's very like Disney in your face kind of theming, which is always really fun, especially for kids. And then at a value resort, your dining option is going to be a dining hall. And then every value resort will have a pool and a pool bar. So value resorts are great. They're good for saving money. If you're wanting to elevate your experience just a little bit without spending too much money, I do recommend going up a tier to a moderate resort. The moderate resorts are going to have basically all the amenities of a value resort, but just a little bit better service. And then they're also going to have a hot tub and a water slide, which is really fun. The bus stops at a moderate resort are also super different than the value resorts. It's not shaded. You're kind of standing out in the sun, and usually the line's kind of long. At the moderate resorts, the bus stops are way smaller. It's usually a couple benches covered with shade. Sometimes it gets busy in the mornings and things like that, but you're not waiting for multiple buses to come, and there's fans and things like that. So it's just a nicer experience when you do have to take the bus, and you definitely get just a little bit better service than you would at a value. And then you have your deluxe resorts. These are going to be like the most fancy resorts that Disney has. They usually have really good transportation options. Sometimes they'll have really great locations, like walking distance to a park, things like that. You definitely get better water slides at the deluxe resorts, and you definitely get elevated service and amenities. Those are kind of the basic tiers of the different Disney hotels. All Disney hotels do come with perks. So anytime you stay on Disney World property, you get perks. To me, the biggest perk is that early entry. You get 30 minutes early entry into the parks versus people who are not staying at a Disney resort. So you get a little head start on your rope dropping, which can be really, really helpful in saving you time in the long run in the parks. You're also going to get free transportation to and from the parks. There's a couple different transportation modes. You have your buses. Every resort has buses. And then you have monorail, Skyliner, boats, things like that. So you definitely have different options, but it's all included in your stay, which is really nice. You also get free parking at your resort. If you rent a car or if you drive down, you can park your car at your resort for free. And then a really cool perk that they're doing in 2025 is a free visit to a water park on your check-in day. This is a really, really cool perk, and it definitely can be taken advantage of. I was thinking that maybe to be able to take advantage of this perk, since I live in Denver and the earliest I can get to Orlando is around noon or 1, then you have to drop off your bags, and then basically like your whole water park day is almost over. So I was thinking maybe to be able to take full advantage of the perk, maybe it would be a good idea to fly in the night before, stay at the Orlando airport, and then check in early the next day. That way you can take full advantage of your free water park day. That is a really cool perk that they're offering in 2025. So because of all these reasons, I do always recommend staying on Disney property. I think it's worth it. But let's get into Port Orleans French Quarter specifically. So it is a moderate resort, so it falls kind of in that middle category as far as price and amenities, and it is the smallest moderate resort. So there's some debate about what the smallest Disney resort is based off of hotel rooms, and I think it gets complicated because some people are considering the boardwalk and then the vacation rental side as two separate resorts. But if you included those types of things as one single resort, I believe French Quarter would be the smallest resort on Disney property. French Quarter is a very small resort. It's very, very nice. It has really cozy vibes because it's so small. It also means less walking. There's a couple different types of rooms, from the cheapest to the most expensive. You have your standard view, garden view, river view, which I'll get to in a little bit, and then pool view, and then the most expensive room you can get is a king bed. All the other rooms are going to have 2 queens. It is in the Disney Springs Resort area, which I think is one of the reasons why a lot of people are not visiting it very often. The transportation options at French Quarter, you only can take the bus to the parks. The nice thing is you also have the boats. It's technically called the Sassagoula River Cruise. So you can take the boats from Port Orleans French Quarter to Disney Springs, but you can also take the boats from Port Orleans French Quarter to Port Orleans Riverside. So French Quarter does have a sister resort. The reason they're called sister resorts is the theming is similar. It's definitely different, but the theming is similar and they are super, super close to each other. So you can actually walk on this nice little walking path right along the river to Riverside if you want to, or you can take the boat there. So that's really, really nice about this resort is it has a sister resort. So it gives you more options. So just kind of overview of the amenities. You have your main lobby with a nice big gift shop attached. This lobby is absolutely gorgeous. This is probably one of my favorite lobbies on Disney property. It's so well themed and immersive, and the second you step in, it makes you feel like you are in the French Quarter. It also has a really nice pool. One thing I love about different Disney pools is the shape of the pool. So for example, when a pool has like all these little kind of outcroppings that you can kind of swim into, it makes it more fun than just like a big square pool. So I do love that about French Quarter's pool. I think they have a great pool with all these like little nooks and crannies, and they have a few water features, things spraying water, which makes it super fun, and it's really fun for kids. The theming is super fun. So if you haven't guessed, the theme of this resort is the French Quarter. So when you're walking along the streets and you're just there, you feel like you are in a completely different place, which is super cool. It does also have a water slide, but at these moderate resorts, you're usually getting a smaller water slide than what you would get at like a deluxe resort. So I will say the slide at French Quarter is pretty small, but it's still really fun, and I always go down it whenever I stay there. So you do also get a hot tub because it's a moderate resort. So the hot tub at French Quarter is kind of tucked away, which is really nice. French Quarter also has a jazz club. Now, I feel like this is one of the coolest perks of this resort is the Scat Cats Lounge. It's only open on the weekends, so if you're gonna stay there, just be mindful that it's only open Friday through Sunday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, they're gonna have live jazz music. Again, the theming in here is just so perfect. When you go in, you feel like you're in like a little like lounge that's set up like in an alley or something. It's really cool. The jazz band that was playing last time we were there, they were super, super fun, interacting with the crowd. People were dancing, like the vibes were good. The vibes were so good. And you can order food and drinks, and it's something you don't get at every Disney resort. So I think it's a really, really cool perk. And again, just amplifies the really cool theming of this resort. So one thing French Quarter does not have is an arcade. There is a pretty sizable arcade at Riverside. So again, that's where that sister resort comes into play. It makes it kind of a fun little trip to head over to the sister resort, check out the gift shop, and then maybe your kids want to go to the arcade. So there is an arcade, but it's at Riverside. Another thing you can do at Riverside is rent Surrey bikes. So there are these little bikes that you kind of pedal and you can ride around basically, and it looks super fun. I've actually never done it. They have it at Riverside as well as at the Boardwalk, which is another Disney resort. One thing I love about Disney is when you go, you can act like a kid, and it just seems like something that would be so funny. Like I swear one of these days we're gonna do it and we're just gonna laugh so hard the entire time. Let's talk about food options. So the primary food location at French Quarter is going to be the Sasagula Floatworks, where it has all these different options. It has these different little windows where you can order different things. You can also order on the app, but this is going to be like where you get the most variety of options. The nice thing about French Quarter is they're going to have a good mixture of your classic Disney foods, which are great for kids. Like they're going to have chicken tenders, burgers, things like that. But then they also have these really, really good themed foods to the resort. So one of my favorite things I had last time was the jambalaya. I think I ate it twice while I was there. The gumbo was also really good. And again, these are things you're not going to find at any Disney resort. So I do think French Quarter does a pretty good job of having those specialty foods as well as the kind of basic foods that kids are going to like. The Scat Cats Cafe. So I know I mentioned the Scat Cats Lounge. That's the jazz club, but that's only open in the evenings. But then all the time you have the Scat Cats Cafe. This is right there in the lobby. You can smell it as soon as you walk in, and this is where you're gonna get your beignets. One of my absolute favorite things, and this is the reason we always go out of our way to even visit French Quarter, even if we're not staying there, is the Mickey beignets. So you can get the Mickey beignets at the Scat Cats Cafe. They also have allergy-friendly beignets. They are not shaped like Mickey Mouse, but they are really, really good. I've tried them, but I prefer my beignet in the shape of a Mickey, so I usually get the regular. And when you walk into the lobby, you can smell this place immediately. It always smells like fresh beignets, and they are so fresh all the time. They are absolutely amazing. This is a must try. And then the Scat Cats Lounge is also going to have some food options. Notably, they pretty much only have the themed foods there. So they're going to have boozy beignets. So they have beignets that are like infused with different liqueurs and things like that. The other thing French Quarter has is a pool bar. Pretty much every Disney resort is going to have a pool bar. Theirs is called Mardi Gras. It has a couple of food options. It has some salads, wraps, things like that. And then I also noticed on the menu, they had this like Creole themed charcuterie board, which was also really cool. So you definitely are getting like themed foods here as well. And then you, of course, you also are going to have the food options at Riverside. So if you walk or take the boat over to the sister resort, you're going to have 2 bars. They have a quick service as well, which is like kind of their dining hall. And then you have a sit-down restaurant called Boat Rights. I have not personally eaten here. My sister said it's surprisingly good. So they're only open for dinner. Riverside is on my list of resorts I want to stay at because we love visiting, and it has really interesting like kind of cozy summer camp vibes. As far as the check-in process, I do think the check-in process at pretty much every Disney resort is pretty smooth. You're definitely more of like doing it yourself at a value resort, whereas at a moderate or a deluxe, they just have a little bit better service. So they're gonna greet you when you get out of your Uber, when you get off your bus or whatever, and they're gonna help you check in. I think one time me and Aaron were greeted with someone with an iPad, and they were like, "What's your name? What's your reservation under?" And they kind of greeted us out front. But sometimes they'll kind of, you know, welcome you. Usually they have someone standing there like welcoming people. So they'll kind of welcome you and send you into the front desk if your room is not ready. If your room is ready, you can go straight to your room if you want to. For example, last time we checked in, our room didn't say it was ready, so we went to the desk to ask. And in my experience at French Quarter, my room is always ready early. It's not always ready the second that I arrive, but check-in time is not until 3 p.m. And in my experience, the room is usually ready early at French Quarter. And it could be one of those things because it's such a small resort, they're able to turn it over a little bit faster. But I always have a great experience with check-in here. I think I just love this resort so much. So the second I arrive, I'm already like so happy. The lobby smells so good, and I'm just like, yes, we're here. We always take a peruse through the gift shop before we head to our room, and it usually goes really, really smooth. The nice thing about checking in to a smaller resort is, for example, we stay at Pop Century a lot. We love Pop Century, but when you need to go to the desk, you're standing in this huge queue of people who are needing to go to the desk, versus at a smaller resort, usually there's no wait. I think every single time at French Quarter, I've just walked up to someone who's ready there to help you. A little bit about our room. So this resort is currently, as of right now, early 2025, currently being renovated. So they're refurbishing the rooms, and they're just kind of, you know, sprucing up the outside of the buildings. So when we booked our trip, the only buildings I knew for sure were renovated were buildings 1 and 2. So we did request a room in one of those buildings just because I knew for sure that those were renovated. But as of December of 2024, when we were there, buildings 1 through 5 are already done. They're currently working on building 6, and then they're kind of working their way up. So they started with 1 and 2, and then they went to 3 and 4, etc. So that's kind of where they're at with that. They're almost done with the renovations. They're going to be done sometime this year. And then all of the rooms will be beautiful like ours. So we did get a beautiful Princess and the Frog / Mardi Gras themed room. So that's kind of the theme of the new rooms. You have all of your characters from Princess and the Frog, you have Tiana, and then it's definitely like a Mardi Gras theme. So for example, the coffee bar had like Mardi Gras confetti all over it, and it was just really, really cute. Disney does not disappoint with these renovations, and they're always absolutely beautiful. Light, airy, gorgeous. What I liked about this room is it definitely had some really nice pops of color. So the headboards were like a bluish greenish color, and then the little lumbar pillows that were on the bed were this like bright orange. And I just feel like they do such a perfect job of keeping to the theme. You can't have a Mardi Gras room and it not be colorful in some way, but they do such a good job of keeping to the theme as well as making the rooms feel really luxurious. So this room is absolutely gorgeous. So every room, like I said, except for if you book a king bed room, is going to have 2 queen beds. So we had 2 queen beds. We did pay for a garden view because that's all that was available with the offer that we were booking with. So we did pay for a garden view, but we got this beautiful river view. Obviously a river view is going to cost more than garden view. Part of me wonders if we got this view because it kind of overlooked the laundry service. So for example, someone who paid for a river view might not want to see the laundry service. They might want to have one of those rooms that are right along the river. So I think that we got really lucky and we had this beautiful view. We had a corner room with all these windows. And when I say I could literally see the riverboat going by from my bed, I could literally see it from my bed. It was so magical. So something to think about when you're trying to decide if you should book a standard view or a garden view or a river view, all those kinds of things. So as soon as you walk into the room, you have your little table and chairs. This little entryway in this room was actually very spacious, but they did a really good job with the renovations of making it feel like you have a lot of storage. So you have all the storage built into the main console, and the main console is way bigger than it was in the older rooms. So that is really nice, way more storage. The beds are all lifted up so that you can slide your suitcase underneath, which is really nice too. We always like to unpack and get settled into our rooms. So we'll unpack everything and shove the suitcases under the bed. And then within all this built-in storage, you do have a beverage cooler. That's what you're going to have in most Disney rooms. So it's not a real refrigerator, but it is just meant to keep beverages cool and things like that. You also have a coffee station. Again, like I said, it's that little Mardi Gras theme. I think what they did to the coffee station in this room is really cute because it's kind of tucked into the corner. In the old room, it was kind of just like awkwardly sitting on the console. So you definitely have like more counter space and like a dedicated little area for your little coffee station. The new renovated rooms have tons and tons and tons of charging places. So they have regular plugs, and then they also have the USB and USB-C plugs. So you can plug your cord directly into the little outlet instead of having to have a bunch of cubes. I usually am charging so many things. I'm charging my camera, my microphone, my phone, my portable charger, and I have all these different things to charge, and I just don't have that many cubes. So when I'm in Disney, having those little USB and USB-C outlets is really, really nice. You also have this beautiful renovated bathroom. You're gonna have a double vanity. They have a little stool that comes out now in some of these renovated rooms for your kids, which is really cute. So they can kind of pull it out and climb up so that they can reach the sink. And then of course, in most of these renovated rooms, you're gonna have this beautiful shower with a sliding door versus having like a shower curtain. So that's always really nice too. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of Port Orleans French Quarter. I would say the biggest pro is the vibes. So it just has such a small, cozy vibe. Every time you're walking around, it feels like you're walking through the streets of a city. Like it literally feels like you were in the French Quarter. Now, I've never actually been to the French Quarter, so I'm sure it doesn't feel exactly the same, but it transports you to a different place. It's so immersive. The other thing we like about French Quarter is the food options. You have some themed foods, you have some kind of regular foods, and I think you can find something there for everyone. I think it's good for kids, it's good for adults, and I think the food options are pretty good. You have not too many different places. You don't have a sit-down restaurant, but you do have plenty of options at the main quick service. I think one perk that is sometimes slept on with these Disney resorts, having a freestyle machine for your drinks. So what a freestyle machine is instead of just having the options of Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Sprite, etc., you have the option to customize your drink. So for example, you can pick Coke Zero, and then you can pick cherry Coke Zero. And you have these freestyle drink machines, but then they also have more options in general. Like you're gonna have these different sparkling waters and like all this different stuff. So I think that that's one perk that really is slept on, but to us is very important because we do always get resort mugs. The other big, huge pro with French Quarter is they close off the food area. When the quick service is closed, they close off just that area and you can still walk through and get drinks. I don't know if it's open all night, but when we got back from the Christmas party, it was like 2 a.m. We still could fill our drinks. So if that tells you anything, I think you can pretty much fill your drink whenever you want. I think another big perk is that you're getting all the perks of Riverside too, because it's so easy to get there. You get more activities, you get more food options just by having that resort within walking distance. Another big perk is the boats. The boats are super, super fun and super relaxing. It's a really cool way to get around, and it doesn't feel like a chore to get somewhere. So when we were there, we took the boat to Disney Springs, we took the boat to Riverside, and yes, you can walk, but it's just nice to take the boat, especially after you've done some long park days, and it's super, super relaxing. Another big important thing is just the service. Like you just get a better experience at a moderate than you're gonna get at a value. And not that the experience is bad at a value, because we say value all the time, we love it, but you do get a little bit more when you pay a little bit more. So for example, like I was talking about, the way they greet you when you arrive. And then the cast members are just super, super, super nice. Like every day when we'd be leaving and we'd walk by the cast members who are cleaning the rooms, they'd be like, have a good day. Like they're just so nice. And the last pro, probably the most important, is Mickey beignets. Not only do you get to eat them whenever you want, because they're right there at your resort, but also every time you walk through the lobby, you can smell them, and it's just, oh, it's the best. Honestly, I don't think there's a lot of cons to this resort. And again, I am a little bit biased because it is my favorite resort. I would say the biggest cons are gonna be that you can only take the bus to the parks. There is no other transportation to get to the parks. So if you have to use the Disney transportation, your only way to get to and from the parks is by bus, which is usually everyone's least favorite mode of transportation. I do think that Disney does a really good job with the bus transportation. I do think the bus stop is really small, it's shaded, it has fans, so it really isn't a bad experience, but unfortunately that is gonna be your only option. I would say another con is that some of the outdoor and like main area decor is starting to look a little bit dated. This resort was built in 1991 and they do upkeep it really well. Like one time when I was there, they took all the characters that are on your way to the pool, they took them all away and they were refurbishing them. And when they came back, they look super fresh. So they definitely like upkeep things pretty well, but just in general, sometimes the theming, you're like, it's giving like 90s a little bit, which is fine. But I think that's also what makes the resort so nostalgic for people like me who grew up in the 90s, but it definitely looks a little bit dated at times. And I would say the other con, this is weirdly specific, but I've had this issue at a few different Disney resorts. There's not enough chairs by the pool. Every resort has a different way of doing things, but I think that the way certain resorts do things can cause this problem by the pool. We had this problem at the Polynesian as well at the main pool. Someone walks up and tosses their towel on a chair. They go in the pool, and when they get out, they use the towel and then they leave it on the chair. And no one's coming around to clear the towels. So then you can't tell, like, is someone sitting there? There's no personal items there, but like there's a towel on the chair. We got to the point where we were like, all right, if we don't see anyone come around here for the next 20 minutes, we're just gonna take the towel and put it in the towel return. Cause like, I don't think they're coming back. So just something to be mindful if you're staying at a Disney resort, like if you're done with your chair, put your towel away so that people know that the chair is available. But every resort does things a little bit differently. So for example, when I stayed at the boardwalk, one nice thing was they had a cast member coming around clearing the towels. So if they saw a towel on a chair that had no personal items, they would take the towel and go and put it in the towel return. And then they were putting fresh towels on the chairs. So you knew which chairs were available and which ones weren't, which was really nice. So French Quarter does not do that. So you can't really tell which chairs are being used, and there's not enough chairs for everyone. I think there are enough chairs for everyone, but the problem is you can't tell which chairs are being used and which ones aren't. So that's kind of a reoccurring problem at French Quarter actually. But honestly, it's really hard for me to think of any more cons because I love this resort and I think that there's a lot of pros. I think the thing that people think is the biggest con is the transportation options. And that definitely is something to consider when you're choosing a resort. But I do also want to throw out there, a couple trips ago, me and my husband Aaron, we went to Disney World, and I made him a PowerPoint to help him choose which resort we were going to stay at. The ones we were considering were French Quarter, Caribbean Beach, and Pop Century. Initially, he's like, we need the Skyliner. We have to have the Skyliner. And I was like, but you don't understand. Like, when you take the bus, it's not the same as taking the bus from Pop Century. It's a much nicer experience. I will say, after we stayed at French Quarter, he was like, I only want to stay at French Quarter from now on. So just know that if you're thinking that's a big con, just know it's not as bad as it sounds. I think overall, Port Orleans French Quarter is a great option if you're looking at places to stay at Disney World. I think it's a great option if you're wanting to spend a little bit more money than a value resort to get a little bit better of an experience. I think that it has stuff for people of all ages. So for example, I have stayed there with just my husband, and it definitely can have a very romantic vibe, but also I stayed there growing up with my family, and kids love it too. The theming is super, super fun without feeling too Disney, and I think that's why it's perfect for people of all ages. So I really do think it's a great option for your next Disney trip. But I have stayed there many times. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to help you out. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope it helped you make some decisions about where you're going to stay on your next Disney trip. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out, and I will see you in the next video.